So now we live in a place where a woman can make her own decisions. And even when she makes her own decisions, it's still a man's fault.
As we've seen in the world, we are not equal to men. We don't have autonomy over our bodies. And so for me, using my platform right now to be like, let me be the boldest I can be, even if people are a little taken aback, I hope it just helps other women.
When women say they don't have autonomy on their body, that's something that needs to be talked about, right? Obviously, it's some women that actually feel that they do not have any autonomy over their body. But we have to sit there and look like, all right, why does she feel like that? Don't just say that doesn't make sense. Or if you disagree with it, just say, I disagree with that. You have to actually speak to people. And as soon as we start having conversations about this is when we can have some type of progress. If you do not have any autonomy over your body, let's just say that is true, then you shouldn't be able to take certain things out of your body, right? So if you wanted to get a BBL, if a woman wants to get a BBL, she can take fat out her body and put it any way she wants to, fine. She wants to get liposuction, fine. You want to chop off your nose, fine. You want to chop off your chest, fine. You can do all of these things just because you feel like it. The autonomy part comes from you not having autonomy over somebody else's body, because they're saying now it's a baby inside of you, which is another person. So therefore, you can do whatever you want to do to your body as long as it doesn't hurt another human being. That's where the conversation needs to stay. Politics is pushing people to make them feel like they have no autonomy over their own entire body. So therefore, you need to vote for us or you're going to lose everything. Meanwhile, when it comes to your body, you can do whatever you want to do to it. Now, if you have the argument that whatever is inside you, it's not anything, it's not human, or it's not a person, then that's where the conversation needs to stay.
Daddy is the biggest female podcast in the world with millions of women listening every single week. But unfortunately, the host Alex Cooper uses his platform to talk about casual sex, partying, and how men are to blame for every bad thing that's ever happened to her.
No denying that we have always been underserved and we are treated like second-class citizen to men, right?
To say that you're treated like second-class citizen to men, I would like to know what men get treated like. It's no right or privilege that a man has over a woman. Zero. But I could say a whole bunch that a women have over a man.
People call that empowering. And the funny thing is that Alex Cooper actually claims that she cares a lot about women's mental health.
Slowly, the show transitioned to talking about mental health and having people on that were willing to open up.
But Alex, don't you realize how dangerous your own podcast is for women's mental health?
I have gone through a man's phone a handful of times in my life.
I don't know if she's just uneducated, ignorant, or that she knows how damaging it is but just decides to put this stuff out anyway. But I think it's none of the above. I think she's just a woman who is fooled by feminism without even realizing it. And I'll give you the perfect example of how dangerous that is. A while ago, she uploaded an episode about the time she flew to Paris to meet a guy she'd never met in real life before.
You don't go up the block. You don't go to another state. You leave the country to go meet some man that you never ever met before. That has nothing to do with anything but your bad decisions.
She met, she wasn't attracted to him, and they didn't connect.
We quickly learned how incompatible we were.
But she still stayed for a week and she had sex with him anyway.
One awkward thing led to another, and we had sex.
And not only do you stay there with the man, you initiate the sex that you had with this man. This man had to bear the burden of her. Imagine a woman coming to come meet you from a different country, and you already done made her take a flight all the way to come see you. After that flight, you realize like, all right, I don't really want to be with you. But you already made the person take the flight. So it's like, all right, if I'm taking this, I'm gonna have to entertain this person. That means that man was a nice guy. So now we're talking about a nice guy. We're not talking about some D-head, because a D-head would have just left her. Would have been like, you're not hot enough. You don't look like your pictures. Bye. Go fly back where you came from, Birdie. He didn't do that. He bared the burden and said, you know what? I made this woman travel out here. Come on, let's go. We can stay. And after he made her stay, he realized that he didn't even like her, but he still let her stay. Just being nice. She stays with him and then she initiates the sex. He didn't say he wanted it. She wanted it. And I know how it feels. We've all been through that as men, where you've been with a woman that actually wants to do something to you. And you're like, I don't really want that.
So she was the one to initiate the sex. Now the big question is, why? Why would she do that if she didn't like him?
Right.
Well, this is her answer to that question.
I still to this day can't fully articulate why I didn't leave. I didn't want to make the other person feel more uncomfortable. So I tried to like appease the situation and make it better, because staying and being miserable somehow felt easier than like pissing someone off and getting in this fight and like leaving and acknowledging how awkward it was. And since he wasn't saying anything, I was not going to say anything. And like,
Now, I don't know how much time she took to reflect on this experience, but I think it would be good for her to reflect on it a little longer. And I'm actually not trying to make fun of her, because having such an experience is not funny. I feel sorry for her that she somehow felt like she had to do all of that and somehow put herself in that situation. And
You're telling me that a woman could make the executive decision to leave her home. Not only leave her home, not only leave her city, not only leave her state, fly out to go see a man that she does not know on her own accord. She stays with that man on her own accord. She sleeps with that man on her own accord. She initiated it, not him. And then somehow throughout that whole entire situation, she's the victim.
and didn't know how to get out of it. And she's really not the first woman who has experienced something like this.
Like, I feel like we've all been there where we're like, I didn't really want to do that, or I wasn't really into it, but then like I did it because, and it's like, why did you do it? And you're like, I don't know. Like,
I've heard from lots of women that they didn't really want to sleep with a certain guy and then ended up doing it anyway and kind of felt traumatized by it.
Men go through the same thing, so that's a human experience. That's not just based on a woman's experience. However, it's going to be far harder for you to find a woman that initiated the intercourse and then say, I didn't want the intercourse. That's where it gets a little bit kooky.
And I'm not talking about a situation here where the woman is very attracted to a guy and then sleeps with him, because that's a very different scenario. But seriously, this situation of hers is not something that can't be prevented. To be honest, she put herself in a very dangerous situation.
You think?
And I think it's very dangerous to tell such a story to millions of women and not even give any insightful message at the end of it. Because what does her conclusion really tell us here? Nothing. Lots of words come out of her mouth, but she's not saying anything. If she really wants to help women, she should have said, girls, I made a really big mistake by flying all the way to Paris to meet up with a random guy I met online. Because that's where it all started in the first place. She fell in love with him online and expected him to be this really hot guy who would pay for everything and that they would just fall in love.
in my mind, I was about to get on a plane to meet the potential love of my life. My stomach was filled with butterflies and time couldn't have gone by slower. All I wanted to do was run into Paris Man's arms and start my fairy tale adventure.
But if you're a woman watching this,
So if you're a woman that live inside of your head, she lived inside of her head, guys. So she lived inside of her head. How could you blame a man for you living inside of your head? Do you understand that she had to skip over so many men? It's some women that are hideous that still have to skip over men. She is nowhere close to hideous. So therefore, she had to skip over so many eligible men in her neighborhood, in her city, in her state, in her country. But somewhere with this feminism and this romanticized novels, you thinking of the guy with the accent in Paris, and you there by the Eiffel Tower and he has a rose in his mouth. You have this fairy tale in your head. So now when you see that, you're like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. And then when you go there and you realize that, yeah, fairy tales are fairy tales. It's not really real. Then you realize like, all right, yeah, I was being dumb. And that's fine if you say, women, do not do that. Don't do what I did. Don't be a fool, leave the country and have this fairy tale mindset. That would be amazing. But no, what she said, like, you could do that. It's the man's fault. Because I was uncomfortable. He made me have to do something. I didn't really want to do it, so I would do it again. There's nothing wrong with anything that I did. It was just basically like, I was there, I was awkward, and I had to do something awkward. I know you have to do something like that too. Misery loves company. She did not say, do not do that. I was stupid. I'm taking accountability for everything that I chose to do. And this is why the cycle continues. And that is toxic feminism.
life is not a fairy tale. What she did is really high risk, and the chance of it going well is really small. I think she was lucky that the guy wasn't truly malicious, because then things could have ended up a lot worse. If you meet someone online, you should always meet him in a public place first, for all the obvious reasons, which she also didn't do, by the way. And then, if you end up not liking him for whatever reason during the date, the best thing you can do is just politely tell him that it's not a match for you and go home. She told in her story that she initiated the sex because she hoped that the sex would change their feelings toward each other.
I, like an idiot, thought, maybe if we physically connect, it will bring us closer together.
Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb, huh?
That was once again her fault. She felt that they could physically connect with each other through this has nothing to do with the man. But yet she's here playing the victim. This is how a woman can manipulate a situation. And they take advantage of good people, because good people just care about her emotions. Like, all right, she went through something that was so-called traumatizing to her. Skipping the whole entire fact that it was all her idea. And she had control of it from the beginning to the end of everything.
And we will go back to the way that we were before I got here, the way that we were texting and connecting.
Because in her head, she still wanted to make this fairy tale work, despite her own disinterest in the guy. Which is just not how it works. You know, what this whole podcast episode shows me is that she doesn't know at all how relationships work. And that she's one of the least suitable people on this planet to give any advice on relationships and dating. Yet she has one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and she talks about sex and relationships all the time.
I have a really random thought for you about threesomes.
Hold on, wait, before we even get to that, that's very important to know that the same person that does stuff like this, let's see what her current deal is about. $125 million for a 3-year deal with SiriusXM. $125 million for a 3-year deal for a person that makes mistakes and talk about sex like that. She is the Sex in the City prototype. And they gave her $125 million for 3 years. That tells you everything that you need to know right then and there.
Oh, yeah. And foursomes. Yeah, this is so strange.
Which is very worrying, to say the least. A while ago, I made a video about why women keep having casual sex, despite not even really liking it. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch that later. But the thing is that for most women, casual sex is just not that casual. The reality is that sex impacts women differently than men. For women, sex triggers emotional bonds, due to higher levels of oxytocin released during intimacy. And this hormone is often referred to as the bonding hormone. It's particularly strong in women, and that makes it very hard for women to just see it as something physical. And I think that pretending that women can have casual sex like men can is one of the most dangerous lies that feminism promotes. But Alex talks about it on her show all the time. She's got millions of young girls looking up to her, and she's poisoning their minds with this stuff.
Right.
And especially young girls are so easy to influence, and they will do anything to be part of the culture or part of the group, which honestly just breaks my heart, you know, that this is the culture we're living in right now.
And I agree with that. So when you come to women like that, women like Alex Cooper that speaks on this stuff, and these other impressionable women, I compare these women with gangbangers and, you know, those type of dudes. Because young dudes are impressionable, and then they want to go follow this, you know, this lifestyle of the gangsters. I don't even know this little kid name. I want to show y'all somebody. This is gonna be important to this fact. I never even watched one of these episodes. That's how annoying it is. But I had seen it. I think I seen a clip too. Pop the balloon. I don't know his name. Little RT is probably his name. See, Little. Let's go Little RT. What is a kid? I don't know how old. He got to be at least 4 years out of diapers. What is a kid like that doing with 20 girls? What could he possibly be doing with 20 girls in this situation? A young little boy like that, grading girls, telling them move to the side, let me turn around, let me see it. This is a child. This is what's impressionable when you got somebody like this. When you put them around gangsters, when you put them around this spotlight, this is what they look forward to. And that's exactly what women like, you know, like the Call Her Daddy woman is doing. You're telling women like, basically like, these are all the mistakes I made. But you're not calling them mistakes. You're calling them like, this is just what I did. You know, you have to live your life. You have your own experiences. And then now those women want to be in the spotlight. They want to have experiences. So they start going out and just living life, having their own experiences. And then bad things happen like that.
Alex Cooper literally got big by talking about how she hooked up with athletes and telling women how to give jobs. And today it's not as bad anymore because she's married now. She actually seems a lot happier, and good for her. I hope she's happy. But you know, it would be nice if she stopped poisoning other women with her toxic feminist message. Because instead of trying to learn from her mistakes and taking responsibility and accountability for her actions, she just blames other people for it. And that's actually what bothers me the most. Not that she talks about casual sex like it's the most normal thing in the world for women, but the fact that she just tells about her sexual experiences, complains about it afterwards,
right,
but doesn't offer any valuable insights.
What does that tell you about her husband? A man that could have a woman speak about this sexuality things and about all the mistakes that she made and all the guys that ran through her that paid her no mind and all the athletes that she done gave her box up to, and you sat there and you put a ring on that woman. What does that tell you about you? Even if you find somebody that you like, let's just say somebody that you really like and this person is cool, you should still start to think like, is this a person I want to marry? Is this a person that I want to have my last name, to have my children, to have a family with? And guys would do this thing over and over and over again and get women just like Alex Cooper. And when you get these women, although you know their past, these be the same men complaining about exactly what happened to them afterwards. These are the men that get divorced, the one that get everything taken away from him, and the kids taken away from him, and it's a terrible divorce, and he's like, oh my God, boy, I don't know how this happened. You didn't know how this happened? What do you think comes with a woman like that? What do you think comes with a woman that's just free out there with sexuality, making these terrible decisions with her life? This is a person you have to speak to on a daily basis that makes terrible decisions with the most prized possession she can ever have. Think about that.
But yeah, since she got big by participating in hookup culture and talking about it on her podcast, it's probably hard for her to completely abandon that, because then she will likely lose a large part of her audience. But it feels hypocritical to me that she's happily married now, but keeps feeding other women this nonsense. I wish she would come to her senses and would do the right thing, because there really is no happy ending in hookup culture, especially not for women. Subscribe to the channel and...
I respect that. There's nothing that she said was wrong. The same thing with lead attorney. When you have these women that you do not want to tolerate and they're just there, people. Leave these situations alone. People like Alex Cooper promotes this toxic feminism to the point that you think that you're liberated because you get to go outside and go sleep around, which is counterintuitive because you ain't doing nothing but helping the guys that want to do it. On behalf of all, or these type of men, all those type of men, on behalf of all of them, we thank you for giving out your box for nothing.